member exporters who have joined us for the today's session. As the subject says, it's a very hot topic these days and concerning our industry, particularly the electronics industry. RoDTEP, as we all know, stands for uh, remission of duties and taxes on export products. It is a new scheme that is applicable with effect from January 1st, 2021, formed to replace the MEIS scheme. The scheme will ensure that the exporters receive the refunds on embedded taxes and duties previously non-recoverable. The scheme was brought about with the intention to boost exports, which were relatively poor in volume previously. Uh, United States had challenged India's key export subsidy schemes in the WTO, claiming them to harm the American workers. A dispute panel in the WTO ruled against India, stating that the export subsidy programs that were provided by the government of India violated the provisions of the trade body's norms. The panel further recommended that the export subsidy programs be withdrawn, and this led to the birth of RoDTEP scheme, so as to ensure that the India stays WTO compliant. Some of the export subsidy programs recommended to be withdrawn include MEIS scheme, EOU scheme, EHTP scheme, Biotechnology Park scheme, EPCG scheme, SEZ scheme, and duty-free imports for exporters scheme. RoDTEP scheme provides refund of the previously non-refundable duties and taxes such as muddy tax, VAT, coal, cess, central excise, duty on fuel, etc. All the items under the MEIS and rebate of state and central taxes and levies are now under the purview of RoDTEP scheme. Export focused sectors are unhappy with the guidelines and the tax refunds rates the government has announced recently under the RoDTEP scheme, which varies between 0.5% and 4.3% of the export value of goods across marine, agriculture, leather, gems and jewelry, electrical, electronic components, and our electronic sector. The Council has also strongly raised this to the Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister recently, along with other export promotion councils, and requested to relook on the rates and also extend the scheme benefits to the EOU, ESTP, and SEZ units. RoDTEP is critical to address India's deep disabilities vis-a-vis its competitors for boosting electronics manufacturing and export competitiveness of the sector. As we have subject experts from Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan attorneys with us to guide and share their insights on this
एक मिनट
important
मेरी
topic,
मीटिंग है ये क्यों नहीं काम कर रहा था
let me extend our warm welcome to Mr. Ratan Jain and Ms. Nupur Maheshwari for kindly agreeing to interact with our electronics industry member exporters today. Uh, Let me very quick introduce you to Mr. Ratan Jain. Mr. Ratan Jain is a partner in indirect taxes practice team at Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan attorneys. His practice include a mixture of litigation in the areas of customs, excise, and foreign trade policy before the tribunals and quasi-judicial authorities, and advisory in the areas of customs and FTP. Mr. Ratan has been advising several companies on a variety of issues having FTP implications under various export promotion schemes such as advance authorization, EPCG, duty drawback, MEIS, SEIS, EOU, SEZ, etc. A very warm welcome to Mr. Ratan. We have another expert with us, Nupur Maheshwari. Nupur is also partner in indirect taxes practice team at Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan. And Nupur is an alumnus of Symbiosis International University, Pune. She is member of Bar Council of Delhi, India. Nupur has advised and represented several leading corporate houses, institutes, and Fortune 500 companies on business and tax planning. Over the last 10 years, she has regularly represented clients before courts and quasi-judicial authorities across the country in diverse areas of taxation, including customs, excise, foreign trade policy, special economic zones, and service tax. Let me also welcome and acknowledge the presence of Mr. Ramanuja Dasan, Prabhakar, as I call him, a very humble and sharp professional who's regularly helping us and the industry on various important updates and matters. With this, I warmly welcome you all and for kindly sparing your time to join us for this session and hand over the floor to our expert team from Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan attorneys. Over to you, Ratan and Nupur. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Great. First of all, I hope all of you are doing well and keeping safe. As correctly pointed out by Mr. Singh, today we are going to discuss remission of duties and taxes on exported goods scheme, which has been introduced by notification on 17th of August 2021. This topic is new and it is important. So therefore, we thought that it would be a good idea to exchange our thoughts with you. And I am thankful on behalf of Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan for allowing us to be a part of this seminar today. I hope that we have a profitable time from today's learning. So as Mr. Singh already pointed out, the scheme, Ratan, do we have the slides on? Yes. So Mr. Singh has already covered the background very beautifully, but there are few points that I want to highlight. One aspect is that the RoDTEP scheme has been introduced with the aim of replacing MEIS. MEIS, which is Merchandise Exports from India scheme, was a scheme under Chapter 3 of the Foreign Trade Policy. And the objective of the scheme was to provide rewards to exporters to offset infrastructural inefficiencies and costs. We all know that under MEIS, the benefit was available in the form of duty credit scrips, and these scrips were freely transferable. And the benefit was directly linked to the export performance. And this was precisely the reason why the scheme was challenged by USA before the WTO. The main argument advanced by USA was that there is no basis for calculating the scrip benefit under the scheme, and that it is totally dependent on the export performance. Because of the ruling which was adverse, which was against India, India decided to phase out all these schemes which are not WTO compliant, and as a result, the RoDTEP scheme is born. In fact, before we get into what exactly is RoDTEP, one point that I want to emphasize is that MEI scheme ended on 31st December 2020. RoDTEP is effective from 1st January 2021. In fact, we all know that way back in 2020, for the last quarter, there was a circular issued by the DGFT, which clearly, by the Ministry of Commerce and by DGFT, which clearly stated that they are limiting the MEI's benefit to 2 crore rupees on account of budget constraints. And in fact, I am aware that for the last financial year, MEI's benefits have not been disbursed to the exporters. So therefore, this is the background with which RoDTEP scheme is born. Moving on, the scheme for remission of duties and taxes on exported goods was announced way back in 2019. The idea was to boost exports, manufacture and exports of goods from India, and also at the same time replace the WTO inconsistent MEIS. We will, during the course of this presentation, we will see that whether whether RODTEP scheme effectively replaces MEIS or not. In our view, it doesn't. I would like to quote here the finance minister's speech during the press release, which is very crucial, because she had said that in effect RODTEP will more than adequately incentivize exporters than existing schemes put together. Again, in my view, she presented a very rosy picture, which is far away from the reality, and we'll be discussing it why so. After more than 10 months of introduction of the scheme, announcing of the scheme, in August 2020, there was another press release where the Ministry of Finance informed that RODTEP committee has been created for determination of the rates under the scheme. So the committee had to work out the modalities for calculating of duties, taxes, levies at the central, state and local government level, borne on the exported products, and recommended the ceiling rates for items in sectors identified by the government. These recommendations had to be prepared by inviting representations from various trade bodies, commodity boards, export promotion councils, etc., and by interacting with them. In this regard, what is crucial to note is that the government had invited data for a period of 6 months only from the stakeholders. This data was invited by letter dated 10th August 2020. The data, as I said, had to be provided for a period of 6 months from October 2019 to March 2020, and included details such as inputs used in manufacture and distribution of export products. So it's manufacture and distribution, the incidence of unrefunded duties and taxes, and there was a format prescribed by the ministry, basis which the information had to be provided by the exporters. The format also provided an illustrative list of various duties and taxes which were to be refunded, which are not refunded, exempted or credited by the central or the state government. The aim was that the exports from India should be at a more competitive price, so that exports are more in number. As I mentioned before, this data would have been used by RODTEP committee for prescribing the ceiling rates, which in turn would have been used by the Department of Commerce in consultation with Department of Revenue to ascertain the degree of benefit to be given under the scheme to each of the exporters. A very important point to be noted, the data was invited only from the DTA units. This, according to me, perhaps was the first indication which was given by the ministry that the idea was that the RODTEP scheme would be restricted only to DTA units, will not be eligible to EOUs, STPs, SEZs, FTZs, etc. Why I say so is also because some of these schemes are already under challenge before the USA, and it seems that the government is looking at phasing out these schemes as well. In fact, we know that many of the exporters are now considering whether it is lucrative to continue to operate as an EOU or whether they should move to a DTA setup. So therefore, it seems that the government is giving a clear indication that probably over a period of time, it only wants to keep those schemes in effect which are very much WTO compliant. Finally, via the press release on 31st December 2020, it was announced that the scheme will be effective from 1st January 2020. In the press release, another point which was highlighted was that the scheme is only going to refund those duties and taxes which were not being rebated, refunded, and were therefore placing our exports at a disadvantageous position. Another point very clearly highlighted in the press release was that the scheme would be eligible, will be available, the scripts will be credited to the exporter's electronic ledger account only. So therefore, there will be no manual intervention. Everything will be done online. The press release also clarified that the scripts could be used for payment of BCD. The scripts would be freely transferable as in case of MEIS. And just like in case of MEIS, the intention to avail the scheme had to be declared by the exporter in the bill of export or the shipping bill. As a result, all the exporters who were claiming benefit under MEIS and otherwise, and now wanted to claim RODTEP benefit, declared their intent to avail the scheme under the shipping bills from 1st January 2020. In fact, there was an advisory, etc., also issued by IceGate, which prescribed the process for generating and claiming the scripts. All of that we'll cover later in the presentation today. The scheme is introduced under Chapter 4 of the Foreign Trade Policy, Wide Notification number 19, which has been issued on 17th of August 2021. Chapter 4 specifically covers all these schemes pertaining to duty exemptions and remissions. In fact, subpara E has been inserted in para 4.01 of the current FTP, stating that the scheme for remission of duties and taxes on exported goods has been notified by Department of Commerce and will be administered by Department of Revenue as one of the duty remission schemes. Ratan, can we move to the next slide, please? So the export items eligible under the scheme along with the rates are also prescribed under Appendix 4R of the policy. The rates, as we can see, are either specific or they are ad valorem rate, meaning they are a percentage of the FOB value. As informed before, the scripts would be generated and applied for electronically, and the procedure has been prescribed in detail by the ministry in this regard. The important point which I want to emphasize, another important point is that there will be an allocated budget framework within which the scheme will operate and the benefits will be granted to the exporters. This budget will be finalized by the Ministry of Finance in consultation with the Ministry of Commerce. In fact, the rates notified under the Appendix 4R will be reviewed and may be revised, say increased, decreased, or maybe they are kept as it is every year to accommodate the projected remissions of duties and taxes from the allocated budget. So there's a possibility that today you are getting a rate of 1.1%, and the next year the rate may increase or the rate may decrease. Whether such revisions can be made within the year also or not is something to be seen, because the notification is silent on this aspect. So suppose it may happen that an exporter has applied under the scheme for a certain percentage, say 0.8%, because that is mostly the percentage which is applicable to goods falling under 85. And he is claiming benefit under RODTEP scheme from the beginning of the financial year. But whether it will continue at the same rate till the end or whether it will not be granted at all on account of budget constraints is not clear. So suppose the benefit in the initial months is given under 0.8, but later on the government realizes that their budget is not available, or there are more applications, and therefore they have to revise the rates so that benefits can be given to all. So whether something like this will be done within the same year or not, is something to be seen. However, the language of the notification suggests that this kind of possibility may arise. But whether in absence of this budget, whether this benefit will not be given at all is something which the notification is not clear about. In fact, these things will be clear only once benefit starts coming in the is given to the exporters in the form of scripts. The notification. Yes, Ratan.
This press release initially when they issued, this basically indicated the budget is around 50,000 odd crores for RODTEP benefit, which is more or less similar or even higher than the MEIS benefit which was being
Correct.
given by the government.
Mhm.
So then putting these kind of restrictions that they can review these rates maybe during the year or maybe next year, whether those are in accordance with the law or not, that also we need to examine.
Correct, correct. And in fact, Ratan, a lot of these restrictions, the government may argue that these restrictions are being imposed on account of public policy, the decisions. It's a policy decision. And there are a lot of rulings which say that policy decisions cannot be challenged
That's
or
correct.
right, cannot be interfered with. So therefore, once, like I said, once the scripts are issued to the exporters, then probably we'll have a better clarity on these aspects.
Correct. Yes.
The another point is that there is a creation of a RODDEP committee, policy committee to be chaired by the DGFT, who will be looking into all these issues arising out of implementation of the RODDEP scheme. And the committee's decision will be binding. Like I said, the scheme is operational through IceGate only. There will not be any manual intervention, and the procedure, etc., prescribed for applying for the scripts and also for transferring the scripts will be discussed by us later. Let us now analyze what is RODDEP. So like I said, the scheme aims at providing refund of all embedded duties and taxes which are currently unrefunded. The duties and taxes at central level, state and local level borne on the export product, including taxes and duties on goods and services used in production of exported goods, and also duties and taxes on distribution of exported products. So it covers both duties and taxes on production, as well as duties and taxes on distribution of exported products, which are otherwise not refunded, not reimbursed, not exempted, or not creditable. These taxes and duties should not be refunded or reimbursed under any mechanism whatsoever, such as duty drawback, GST credits, refunds, central and state government exemptions, and subsidies. There is a specific bar in this regard in the notification, a very important point which all of us may note. In fact, the duties and taxes which are actually covered, they were, like I said, the illustrative list was already provided when the government had invited data from various stakeholders. And if we see the kind of duties and taxes which are unrefunded would be like mandi tax, electricity duty, central excise duty on fuel, etc., coal cess. So all of these duties are not refunded as of now. And therefore, these are the ones which are covered. If the incidence is being borne by the exporter, then he will, suitable rates have been provided under RODDEP so that he can claim the benefit in the form of scripts. I would just highlight one point here that it is not important whether you have claimed the credit or the exemption. That is not relevant. The government's intention is very clear that if you are getting a credit, you are getting exemption, it is presumed that you would have taken that benefit, or even if you've not taken that benefit, it has been kept out of the benefit, the calculations. It's not reckoned for the purposes of arriving at the RODDEP benefit. So suppose I have taken GST credit, and on various inputs, and that credit is lying unutilized. Could be many reasons. Could be that it is a zero rated supply, or could be that there is inverted duty structure because of which I cannot utilize the credit. Such credit amounts unutilized and taxes suffered will not be reckoned for the rates under RODDEP scheme by virtue of the fact that the credit is already taken by me, and therefore I am barred by the notification. So like I said, the rebate is available to eligible exporters under notified rates, which are specific or ad valorem, which is a percentage of FOB value of the products. In some of the cases, products rebate is subject to cap per unit of the export products. As of now, there are 8,555 export items which are covered under the Appendix 4R. And normally the percentage ranges from 0.01% to 4.3%. There are specific sectors which have been kept out of RODTEP. Again, we will be discussing what are those sectors. Ratan, can we move to the next slide? Yes, the rates. Yes. So, we've tried to, we are projecting this slide where we have tried to cover the existing rate under RODTEP, the rates that were applicable under MEIS and drawback. A perusal of these rates will show that as opposed to 2 to 3% benefit available under MEIS, under Chapter 85 goods, the benefit under RODTEP is almost restricted from 0.8 to 1.1%. Further, the scheme is, like I said, restrictive in nature, as no benefit is currently being given to SEZs, EOUs, advance authorization holders, etc. On the contrary, when we compare it with MEIS, all these categories were covered under the MEIS scheme and were getting the benefits. And in fact, almost all the products were covered under MEIS, which is not the case in case of RODTEP. Like I said, steel sector, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, all these sectors have been right now kept outside the purview of MEIS. Hence, one of the basic doubts which I also have, and probably Mr. Singh also mentioned that the entire Exporter Association has, is whether this RODTEP scheme is actually replacing MEIS. Because it seems that the government projected it is, but when you go through the scheme in detail, it seems that the scheme is a lot more restrictive in nature. Now I will request Ratan to share the eligibility criteria with respect to the scheme.
Thank you, Nupur. Good afternoon to all of you. So in continuation to that, Nupur, what stated about the scheme, now we will be discussing about who is eligible to claim benefits under the RODTEP scheme. So first and foremost criteria is that person who is exporting the goods should be manufactured in India. So if item imported and then re-export as such, you will not be getting RODTEP benefit. So product should be manufactured in India and those products should be covered under Appendix 4R. So these two criteria are important for you to claim the benefit under RODTEP. In addition, this claim also is
Ratan, I have a doubt here. So when you say manufacture, the expression manufacture is not defined under the scheme. So will we apply the definition as provided under the policy, or can we also look at the excise judgments?
So this, according to us, this definition of manufacture provided in the foreign trade policy would be relevant because this scheme is administered by Ministry of Commerce. So therefore, we have to refer the definition under foreign trade policy, which is wide enough to cover all cleaning, repacking, packing, labeling, etc. All those activities also would be covered. So therefore, manufacture definition is quite wide to cover entire activities.
Okay.
The claim is subjected to satisfying conditions as specified under notification 19. Then only IceGate users with digital signatures can avail this scheme. This is also one of the important factor because like previous schemes were available based on the manual application filed with DGFT or jurisdictional regional authority. But here they say that you have to apply this RODTEP benefit online on the IceGate portal and you must be having digital signature. Then only this scheme would work and then only you will be able to file the claim. So this is very important. Why did they do so? That we will discuss in when these questions we will take. Now we will discuss who is not eligible to claim the benefits under RODTEP scheme. These exclusions are there in RODTEP, this para 4.54. These more or less are similar to the exclusions given in duty drawback, and some of the exclusions are there in MEIS also. So for example, exports of imported goods as per para 2.46 of foreign trade policy. So it means that if you import the goods and you export it as such in substantially the same form without processing the finished goods. So in that case, you will not be getting the RODTEP benefit. Exports through transshipments, meaning exports originating in third country but transshipped through India. if goods are imported into India from particular country, which are meant for export to another country. So these goods are just routed through India, but not meant for, not exported from India. So that will not be considered as export from India and the benefit would not be available. Then export products subject to minimum export price or export duty. So we believe that there is no product falling for this particular industry where export price, minimum export price is determined or goods attract export duty. So this criteria is also one of the criteria for them to exclude the benefit from RoDTEP. Products restricted and prohibited. If goods being exported from India are under prohibited or restricted category from under foreign trade policy, then those also would be outside the purview of RoDTEP benefit. Then deemed exports. This is also outside the purview of RoDTEP. What is deemed export? Deemed export was there earlier in foreign trade policy, which means that the supply which is considered as export, but even those do not leave the country. So, for example, supply of goods to advanced authorization, EOU, EPCG, or some projects which are under ICB or any other government agency approved from project. So those supplies would be considered as deemed export, where you can fulfill your export obligation against other scheme under EOU, advanced license, etc. But for the purpose of RoDTEP benefit, this deemed export will not be considered as one of the criteria, one of the supply. So deemed export is outside the purview of RoDTEP. Now in GST regime also, for supplies they have considered as deemed export. Earlier in excise regime there was no concept of deemed export. It was there in foreign trade policy. But now in GST also they have considered. So supply of goods to EOU, supply of goods to advanced license holder or EPCG. So these categories are also considered as deemed export under GST and in terms of section 147, and notification also issued. So those categories also would not be eligible for RoDTEP benefit. Then this is also one important is supply of products manufactured by DTA unit to SEZ. So even like DTA to SEZ is not considered as deemed export, but still that particular supply, the category is kept outside from RoDTEP benefit. But suppose if goods are manufactured by DTA unit and DTA unit does not have the export order and it exports through SEZ unit, whether benefit of RoDTEP would be available or not. So in that in the context of MEIS, Bombay High Court decided, because this exclusion is there under MEIS scheme also, supply of products manufactured by DTA to SEZ. So one particular assessee manufactured the goods in DTA unit. It did not have the export order, but it exported through SEZ unit. So he claimed the benefit of MEIS. This regional authority denied the benefit, saying that you are falling under the exclusion category, therefore benefit is not available. Then matter went to Bombay High Court, and Bombay High Court took the view that these goods are manufactured by DTA unit. It is only exporting through SEZ unit. So therefore, this particular exclusion would not be applicable, and therefore, on prima facie on merit, the matter was decided in favor, but matter remanded back again to original authority. So this can be considered even in RoDTEP scheme also, that goods are manufactured by DTA unit but exported through SEZ unit. In continuation to the list of ineligible category, products manufactured in EHTP and BTP is outside the purview of RoDTEP. So EHTP also, if you manufacture the goods in that, you will not be getting. Goods which have been taken into use after manufacture. This is, I think, a very important for this particular industry, where I'm told that like mobile manufacturers, they manufacture the mobile, and these mobiles are tested before they export. So this exclusion is there under duty drawback also. So similar exclusion they have kept here. So if these goods are used before they export, then probably you may not be getting, because this can be considered as second-hand goods, and therefore benefit may not be available. So that dispute what is there in duty drawback perhaps may be there under this RoDTEP benefit also. Then products manufactured partly or wholly in bonded warehouse. So pursuant to the dispute by US before WTO, our government has relaxed this provision and basically simplified this mover scheme in 2019, and people are opting for this scheme. Many of the manufacturers are exploring, and then they are converting from their EOU to bonded warehouse. But now the loopholes, the problem is that this mover, if you are manufacturing in bonded warehouse, you will not be getting all industry debtor drawbacks. In addition, you will not be getting even RoDTEP benefits. So these two benefits would not be available. So therefore, if you are opting under this scheme or if you're exploring, you may take a call accordingly. This benefit under RoDTEP would not be available.
Ratan, I have a question here. So the
Yes.
expression used is partly manufactured in mover will also not be eligible. Now there is no clarity as to what exactly partly will constitute, right? I mean, suppose I have taken some operations in the mover, which doesn't result in manufacture, and then I move those goods in DTA. We don't know whether still I would be eligible for RoDTEP, right? Those things have
That's
to be
correct.
seen.
Correct. So whether in that case, like product A is manufactured in mover, product A is not being exported, but product A is cleared into DTA, and DTA unit is converting this product A into B, and B is exported. If that be the case, then B would be entitled to get RoDTEP benefit. But if product A is manufactured in mover, in bonded warehouse, and A is cleared to DTA, and B, this DTA unit is just putting some, I mean, just polishing or finishing that product, and A only is being exported, then for it may fall under this partly word, and benefit may not be available. So that's something we need.
Also, there could be a third situation, Ratan, where you are just doing some operations which may not be called manufacture under the Central Excise Act. But what will have to be seen whether it can be called manufacture under the definition of foreign trade policy.
Correct.
Because it says that it has to be manufactured partly or wholly. What if I'm only doing some operations within mover, which doesn't amount to manufacture? So these aspects will be a cause for litigation going forward.
Correct. And products manufactured or exported in discharge of export obligation against advance authorization or DFIA or special advance authorization under a duty exemption scheme. So here special advance authorization would not be relevant because this scheme is only for textile garment sector. So which is otherwise outside the purview of RoDTEP because they are continuing to get that ROS CTL benefit. And against advance authorization, if you export the goods towards discharge of export obligation, then you will not be getting. Now here again, suppose some goods you manufacture, like advance authorization holder manufacture the goods, but he has imported the inputs without payment of BCT IGST. He manufactured the goods, but he is not mentioning advance license number in the shipping bill, and he is not considering that particular supply towards fulfillment of export obligation. So for that particular supply, whether he will be eligible to get RoDTEP benefit or not. In other words, this scheme per se bars the advance authorization holder to claim the benefit, or it will be considered qua that particular supply where he is not availing or is not considering the discharge of export obligation. So that also one of the issue is there, because this issue is being faced by the industry from GST perspective when they claim this benefit of refund of IGST on export of finished goods under Rule 96. So their entire industry is facing that problem. So basically that benefit is qua supply, qua unit or qua advance license. So here also that can be one of the issue. Products manufactured or exported by 100% EOU, FTZ, EPZ, though this date they will notify later, but here at least for the purpose of exclusion they've kept these categories. Product manufactured availing the benefit of 32 of 97. This is one of the notification in customs where they allow import of goods without payment of basic custom duty. IGST is not exempt. Applicable IGST is to be paid, and these finished goods are to be exported, achieving 10% value addition. So basic custom duty exemption is there, and that also is kept outside the purview of RoDTEP benefit. We do not know why this has been kept, because here only basic custom duty exemption is available, no IGST. Then one of the categories, exports for which electronic documentation in ISGate EDI has not been generated, or exports from non-EDI port. Though this scheme, the objective of the scheme is to refund the unrefunded taxes embedded in the inputs gone into the export product. But here, these are the procedural issues which even restrict the exporter to claim the benefit of RoDTEP or restrict the benefit which is otherwise available on merit. So this is also one of the issue which can be flagged to board. Yes, now Nupur, you can continue.
Right. So, another point which, some of you may be wondering whether you can claim PLI as well as RODEP scheme simultaneously, because we've highlighted some of the PLI schemes which are applicable to this particular industry. So, according to us, there is no bar under the RODEP scheme which debars the assessee from claiming benefits under PLI. All you have to ensure, all that the scheme requires is that the benefits are restricted to unrefunded duties, taxes, etc., which has no link with PLI. Also, if we see the PLI scheme, the PLI scheme very clearly states that eligibility under the PLI scheme is not going to affect the eligibility under any other scheme. So therefore, basis that, we can say that PLI and RODEP can be claimed simultaneously. So this has already been covered by Ratan. In some of the categories, these are the following three categories where the benefit will be notified at a later date. These are products manufactured or exported under advance authorization or DFIA or special advance authorizations under a duty exemption scheme, or in case of goods manufactured and exported by 100% EOU, FTZs, EPZs and SEZs. One point of concern again, which the association may consider and suitable representations can be filed, is that the data was never invited from an EOU or an FTZ or an SEZ. So what will be the basis, for arriving at the scrip benefit? If and when this benefit is allowed is something to be seen. I think suitable representations should be made so that benefit is given to the to these units, keeping in mind their exposures. Also, very important aspect is that the central government has the power to modify any of the categories for inclusions or exclusions under the scheme. This is very, very important because there's a possibility that today your product is covered under RODEP, probably tomorrow it may not be covered. So, the government has the power to increase or decrease the export items covered under Annexure 4R, and the government can very well, they can cite various reasons for doing so. They can say that it's a public policy decision taken by them, or they want to discourage those exports, or there could be number of other reasons. So, and when these kind of situations arise, the courts may not want to intervene. So this is another aspect that we all must keep in mind while applying for RODEP.
In other words, this just because a particular exporter is exported the goods, he does not get any vested right that he will be giving this benefit. Government can withdraw, can include, or can modify the rate at any point in time.
Correct, but Ratan, one will still have to see, because if I have exported the goods, there are some rulings in the past in case of other schemes where the courts have held that once you have a vested right, that right cannot be taken, and if any a modification has to be done, that modification will be done only prospectively. So those aspects we have to see.
Correct.
Another point that one will have to see is that suppose the government extends benefits to EOU, SEZs, FTZs, etc., then whether these benefits will be granted retrospectively, that is from 1st January 2021, like in case of DTS, or it will be granted prospectively, that is from the date when these units are brought within the ambit of RODEP.
Correct.
These issues, there is no clarity on these issues, and we'll have to wait for the ministry to respond. Maybe we are highlighting these issues so that the association can make suitable representations on these issues to the ministry.
Then these are the criteria for getting the benefit. One is that this export product, what we are intending to export, it should be covered under Appendix 4R, which we already discussed. Then this declaration of intent is also required to be given. So earlier in MEIS, we specifically, it was required to be indicated that we intend to claim the benefit of MEIS, but here that is not required to be indicated. Here we need to tick that yes or no button in the shipping bill. So if we say if we intend to claim, then we have to click yes, and otherwise we have to select no option. So this is mandatorily required in order to claim the benefit of road tape. What happens if since 2000 January 2021, if we have not indicated this declaration of intent in the shipping bill, and even today if we come to know that our products fall under Appendix 4R, whether we can claim the benefit or not we'll just see in next slides. Then rebate allowed under the scheme is subject to receipt of sale proceeds within time allowed under FEMA. So this is also one of the criteria. In this notification, they've indicated that they intend to realize by the exporter this foreign exchange when they export the goods. So exporter should realize the foreign exchange, and then the benefit would be available. The foreign exchange should be realized within the time specified by FEMA. So it's not that at the time of making the export you have to realize. You will be given the benefit of road tape as in when you export the goods, but the time limit under FEMA is 9 months. So within 9 months or extended period by AD Banker, you can realize the export proceeds and then you will be given the benefit. So suppose if you have exported today and then you have got these scripts, but within 9 months if you do not realize or within extended period, then the recovery provisions will apply, or you suo moto, you can surrender that benefit.
So Ratan, I have a question here.
Yes. Yes, Nupur. Hello. I think maybe some technical issue. So by the time she connects, we'll continue. So they also said that necessary rules and procedures regarding grant of refund, these would be implemented. These will be notified by CBIC on IT enabled platform. So one thing is very clear, that filing of application, getting the benefit of road tape and transfer of the scripts, utilization of the script, all those things will happen on IT enabled platform only. There will not be any manual scripts, manual transfer, manual applications. All those things would not be there. Perhaps in past there were issues in the context of DPB, where they used to be forged scripts issued by the exporter or agent or kind of importer, etc. So those issues would not be there here. But again, even though this IT enabled platform will allow them to generate or get the benefit, still there could be some of the issues which we will see in next slide. Then as I mentioned, the e-scripts would be issued. So rebate, whatever benefit we will be getting, it will be in the form of transferable duty credit script. So here there is a mix-up of both 2-3 schemes. Like MEIS was considered as duty incentive scheme. This road tape is not duty incentive, but it is duty remission scheme, because government is actually reimbursing the duties or taxes embedded on the imports. But the scripts what they are going to give will be transferable duty credit scripts, that will be on e-script on electronic mode, and this will be maintained in electronic ledger at IceGate. This electronic ledger also is notified. Basically section 51B of Customs Act recognizes that electronic ledger to be maintained by the importer or exporter at the IceGate port. So this was issued in 2020, and now in order to implement this, so electronic ledger is required to be maintained by the exporter on IceGate portal, and for the detailed procedure also is provided in advisory note, which was issued in January 2021, which provides the detailed steps what is required to be taken. Then users can generate scripts for amount as per their choice, which can be utilized or transferred. So when you export the goods, so you can the moment you are able to see the amount, scroll would be generated in when you file the shipping bill. Shipping bill will be filed in RMS, and then it will be sent to the officer for examination. If officer does not want to examine, then it can be directly sent for generation of scroll. Once the scroll is generated, then you will be able to see the amount. So this is the amount of benefit I am going to get, and then you will also be seeing that number of shipping bills for which you are going to get the benefit. then you can select those particular shipping bills for which you want to generate the script. So for example, 100 shipping bills are there. If you want to generate scripts like 4-5 shipping bills, one script, so you can select 5 shipping bills and then you can generate the scripts. So once you generate the script, then you will be able to see the scripts will be available in your portal, and then the unique number of the scripts would be given by the iScape portal itself. This script then you can utilize for payment of basic custom duty, because notification by Ministry of Commerce today they provide that you can use this script only for payment of basic custom duty. Even whether you can make payment of social welfare surcharge or health cess etc. is not clear, but notification issued by Ministry of Commerce provides only basic custom duty. So notification also would be issued by Ministry of Finance. The custom notification also would be issued. We have to see whether it only allows us to utilize basic custom duty falling under Schedule 1 or any other duty as well. So that clarity we will get once notification issued by Ministry of Finance. Then what will happen if there is any misdeclaration or valuation classification issues by the exporter, because this will be monitored on IT enabled platform. So whether suppose if like exporter is exported product A is eligible at rate of 0.8%. 0.8% is given to the exporter based on the realization or based on the export, whatever export he has made. Later point in time, and then he got the scripts. Scripts was transferred to transferee based on the mechanism provided on the platform. Then subsequently department comes to know the product what was exported by that exporter is not A, it A plus, and A plus is not entitled for rate or is eligible to get lesser rate of benefit. So whether department can recover that amount from the exporter, whether importer would be liable or transferee would be liable in that case, or whether any proceedings etc. can be initiated, any penalty etc. can be initiated or not. So for those things, the notification as to today by Ministry of Commerce mentions that these provisions would be notified by CBIC. So therefore, suitable notification would be issued, and then the circular also may be issued by CBIC. But having said so, there are provisions under the customs law which perhaps may take care of these of the situations. For example, section 28 AAA, which was inserted in 2012 to take care of the misdeclaration or suppression made by the exporter in obtaining the scripts from the DGFT. So this basically prior to 2012, there was no mechanism for the department to recover any duty or any benefits availed by the exporter if the exporter obtains the scripts and transfer to transferee. So to take care of those loopholes in the law, this provision was created. Then this provision
So
also.
Ratan, just to add, if the exporter has obtained the scripts fraudulently, then he will be charged under section 28 AAA. And if those scripts, fraudulently issued scripts, have been utilized by the importer, they have been purchased by a third party and who is an importer and who's utilized those scripts, that importer can be covered under section 28 of the Customs Act.
That's correct.
Right? So both
Yes.
exporter and importer. So importers will also have to take care that the scripts are obtained after due diligence.
Correct. In fact, this 20th AAA was 1 year back also was amended to include the electronic credit ledger maintained in terms of section 51B, because earlier it was covering only scripts issued by or instrument issued by DGFT, but now they've amended to cover even electronic credit ledger maintained under 51B. So therefore it appears that this 20th AAA will take care of any fraudulent activity by the exporter in availing the road tax benefit as well. Then the section 113 JA also was inserted in 2021, confiscation of goods improperly exported. So if suppose if goods are improperly exported in availing the benefit of refund etc., then these goods whatever they have exported may be liable for confiscation. So to take care of this situation, the section 113 JA was inserted. Then 114, it was there earlier that if improperly exported goods, then penalty can be equal to the benefit amount, penalty can be liable. Then 114 AB also was inserted in 2019 to take care of that scripts obtained by exporter fraudulently from DGFT. So therefore penalty 114 AB can be invoked. Now this is the process which I just indicated, that this is the process we have to follow in claiming the scripts. This is the website www.iscat.gov.in. We have to create our login ID and password first. There is a drop down button. E-scripts would be there on the website, just below the bottom end of this website. E-scripts would be there. We have to select, and then it will show the road tab, and then it will ask us to put it login ID and password. So we have to create our login ID and password. Once we create that, then we have to put that, and then you will be able to see the this line items showing the scroll details, shipping bill details, amount, transfer, or all the utilization, etc. All these details would be shown. Currently, I am told that nothing is being shown, no scroll has been generated, because they are still in the process of making it compliant, and even CBIC or the Ministry of Finance also has not issued notification. So perhaps they may take some more time in giving this benefit, though this this declaration of intent, etc., is being made since 1st January 2021, but actual benefit has not been given so far. Then declaration in shipping bills. So this is, we already discussed that, road tab why we have to indicate. Then processing of claims and generation of the scroll. This all these things will be there on the website. You need not file any separate manual application or any other things. Claiming of credits, you can generate your scripts. You can utilize the scripts by paying custom duty on the website itself, and then you can transfer that scripts. For transferring also, this process you have to follow. Suppose if you have created your ledger account, then you will get that transfer script tab in your portal. You select that appropriate scripts, like particular script number, unique number will be there. So you select that particular script, and then you put the IC of the transferee to whom you want to transfer that script. Then you will get one OTP on your registered mobile number or on your email ID, registered email ID. You will get that OTP. You put that OTP, then it will be transferred. Then the transferee also has to approve this. The transferee also will get message, and then he has to approve that scripts transferred by the transferer. Then he will also get one OTP, and that OTP he has to put into the system. Then the scripts would be transferred to the transferee. So this is the process you have to follow for transfer of the scripts.
So Ratan, just one point I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Is it that the scripts will be issued, each one script will be issued for every shipping bill, or can I club my shipping bills for getting the scripts?
Yes, you can club that. 4 or 5 shipping bills also you can club that. So those guidelines they have to provide, but this advisory note mentions that multiple shipping bills, this scroll would be generated based on the shipping bills, and then multiple shipping bills can be clubbed into for getting one scripts. So you
And
can.
also and also you've mentioned that the transferee also needs to have a valid credit ledger account. So suppose a transferee wants to use it for a non-EDI import, then he won't be able to use it, right?
Correct.
And he need not be a person who already has a ledger account. I mean, he can be a first-time user who's creating it only for the purposes of receiving the scripts.
Absolutely, that is possible. He need not be the owner of the script. He need not be the exporter. He can be new user also, but transfer can happen subject to he is having the credit ledger on the iSCAT portal.
Okay, thank you, Ratan.
Then this was one of the issue which I mentioned, that in the context of MEIS, many of the exporters were denied that benefit because they unintentionally they did not mention in the shipping bill that they intend to claim the benefit of MEIS. Though they that declaration was there, we intend to claim the benefit, but in addition to the declaration, they were also required to indicate the Y or N option in the shipping bill. So this was not indicated. So in those context, a matter went to High Court, and High Court in these cases have held that non-declaration of this Y or N option is procedural lapse and substantial benefit should not be denied. So in these cases, it has been categorically held that benefit should be available to the assessee. So, but having said so, whether they will follow in the context of RoDTEP or not is also something we need to see, because here when scheme categorically mentions that you need to declare, and if you do not declare, then benefit would not be given. Probably they may consider this as no specific condition for granting the benefit. So therefore, we must declare that. In case of inadvertent error only, probably we can rely upon these decisions to contend before court.
But Ratan, can someone say that the intention to declare is not there in the notification? It only comes from the advisory or the press release which was issued earlier. Can somebody, I mean, in case of an inadvertent error, take advantage of the fact that it's not there in the notification?
That's correct. That can be argued.
Right. So, I mean, these are, again, these points can be noted by the association. Right.
This is one of the issue which we feel that it can be raised by the department. This MEIS scripts prior to 2019 was being given physically, because manual application used to be filed, and then it was issued by DGFT. And once this script is issued, the exporter was required to register at the particular port, and then he was allowed to transfer the scripts to transferee based on the endorsement by the DGFT. But here in case of, so therefore in that context, it was considered a supply of goods, because the scripts were considered as goods. It was held Supreme Court also in case of Vikas Sales Corporation in the context of REP license. So subsequently also courts have followed and said that scripts issued by DGFT or any other agency would be considered as goods, and therefore supply of these goods to another person to transfer it would be considered a supply of goods, and therefore GST would be payable. But in the context of MEIS, it was considered a supply of goods, and GST also was chargeable initially in July 17, but later on they've issued notification saying that this transfer of scripts by transferor to transferee would be exempt. So therefore notification categorically exempted that particular supply of goods. But in this context, when the scripts are issued electronically, there is no physical scripts available. So this certainly cannot be considered a supply of goods. And in GST, it is said that whatever, if there is a particular supply is not a supply of goods, then it can be considered a supply of service. And supply, if this is supply of service, then perhaps this may attract GST, whatever rate applicable. So this also one of the issues we suggest that association can make representation when government is giving this benefit, though this will be e-scripts, but still this should be exempt from payment of GST. So that also representation can be made. Then this undervaluation.
And just to add, Ratan, I mean, in case the exemption is not issued on time, then the representations will also have to be made for making that exemption applicable retrospectively, because we already have a lot of rulings which say that exemption
Correct.
notifications have to be strictly construed. So this is a very important aspect to be kept in mind.
Correct. Then this undervaluation or valuation, we already discussed that. Then e-scripts obtained for exports made by EDI port can be transferred for utilization. As of now, the indication is that you generate the scripts, you export the goods at EDI port, the scripts would be given online, and then the indication is that you can use only at EDI port. But if later point in time they allow or specifically mention in the by way of circular or so, then probably you can use at non-EDI port. But as of now, the indication seems to be because they want to keep track of the entire scheme, that to whom the script was issued, where it was utilized, to whom it was transferred, etc. In this lag, if suppose if someone is utilizing this scripts and non-EDI port, perhaps they may not be able to keep track, and that is not the objective of the scheme and government's intention also. So therefore, utilization and non-EDI port may not be allowed. So now these are the potential issues which we have highlighted. Nupur, you would like to take?
Right. So I think with respect to drawback, we are very clear that drawback and RoDTEP can be claimed simultaneously. And again, we've already discussed that what happens if the benefit is given at a later point of time to schemes like advance authorization, EOU, SEZs, etc., whether it will be applicable retrospectively or prospectively. According to us, it's very important that this benefit is given retrospectively. Otherwise, because unless it is not specifically mentioned in the notification, then the courts will, in all probability, will hold that the benefit will apply prospectively only. Right. Also, what happens in case exporters had not indicated the intent? Again, this point has been covered by Ratan. We've already said that one may take help of decisions under MEIS, but it is always better to declare the intent because it saves you from the unnecessary litigation. Whether an exporter would be eligible if he is already claiming benefit of unrefunded taxes, duties, levies under the state-specific schemes. Again, one will have to see what kind of exemptions and benefits have been taken. In our view, when the representations were invited, these with respect to the embedded duties, which we've already covered before, the ministry would have considered the suitable exemptions which were being claimed by the assessees under the state-specific schemes. And therefore, after considering that, they would have notified the rates. So as such, there should not be a problem, but this would require deeper analysis on case-to-case basis.
Correct. Then whether additional RoDTEP benefit will be granted in case of increase in the FOB value subsequent to export, like supplementary claim, which was there in case of drawback, and it was there initially in the context of MEIS, but there is no clarity on this aspect. So suppose if you export today worth 100 rupees goods, you get the RoDTEP benefit, but later point in time, based on your transfer pricing study or any other issues, if you get issue debit note and then you or credit note, and then you maybe a situation that you realize maybe 20 rupees more than what you have exported. So whether on 20 rupees additional consideration what you get, whether you will be getting a RoDTEP benefit or not. So that's something we can association can make representation. And one important thing is that notification issued by Ministry of Commerce categorically says that there will not be any contingent liabilities or any arrears. Those would be allowed in next year. So a carry forward of no contingent liability or arrears, etc., those would not be allowed. So keeping in mind whether they will give any additional benefit or benefit on the additional consideration is something to be seen.
Also, I think under MEIS, supplementary claims were barred.
Initially, it was there in 9
Yes.
day, then they did not allow. 19
Right.
they
So
made a specific amendment.
correct. So similar situation may arise in case of RoDTEP also.
Correct. Then interest would be available on the past eligible exports in terms of Appendix 4R because declaration is being made 1st January 2021. Suppose if they give this benefit maybe by September or so, for 9 months, whether you will be getting interest. We don't think so that you will be getting interest. If you get RoDTEP benefit on time, probably I think it will be good for the industry. But this is just if someone wants to challenge or wants to explore that possibility of getting interest, etc. So we just want to highlight this issue. Whether government can change the RoDTEP rates within the same financial year. So this is something we need to see because Nupur already covered this. Within the same financial year, whether government, though this notification provides the sequence of degree of benefit, sequence of sectors to whom the benefit is to be given or ceiling rates, etc. All those would be monitored and controlled by Ministry of Finance with consultation with Ministry of Commerce. So if they bring this kind of amendment, perhaps you may challenge that. Like for example, MEIS this in September 2019, when they brought that amendment saying that for 4 months the ceiling rate is 2 crores per IC holder. So this issue is pending before Gujarat High Court. One of the SEC challenged that issue. So similarly here also, if such a situation arises, may be taken a call for challenge or not, depending upon the benefit available under that. Then here one important thing is, though we have highlighted that the moment you file the shipping bill, it will be under RMS and then scroll would be generated, benefit would be given. But notification seems to indicate, the notification issued on 17th August seems to indicate that a separate application and timeline within which you have to file the application would be notified by CBIC. So that's something we need to wait whether separate application is required to be filed or whether the filing of shipping bill and then generation of scroll etc. would be automatic is also some clarity is required on that aspect. So this is also one of the issue.
But then before we conclude, I would want you to address one question.
Yes.
What happens, because you were mentioning about realization of foreign exchange, what
Hmm.
happens in case where the exports are realized in INR? Will we still get the RODTEP benefit?
So if suppose if goods are exported to Nepal, Bhutan and you realize in INR, this even benefit of MEIS as well as duty drawback both were not available. And here also when this notification mentions that foreign exchange you have to realize, so INR realization of INR would not be relevant, would not be giving the benefit of RODTEP even though goods are exported to Nepal and Bhutan. But if suppose if RBI or Eddie Banker categorically considers this realization of INR for export to Nepal and Bhutan equivalent to the realization and freely convertible currency or foreign exchange, then perhaps you may get that benefit. Because what I understand is prior to 2015, RBI was considering these exports realization of INR as equivalent to the realization in freely convertible currency. And there the benefit of EPCG, advanced license, etc. was being given. But in 2015 onwards, this policy also categorically says that you have to realize freely convertible currency. But here we need to see whether this notification issued by Ministry of Finance mentions about freely convertible currency or foreign exchange or what, because here clarity is required. This notification by Ministry of Commerce indicates foreign exchange. So foreign exchange could be other than INR. So suppose if Nepalese currency or Bhutanese currency or any other currency other than INR, if you realize, perhaps you may get that benefit. But considering that or no, going by the intention and going by the past schemes, the intention of the government is that exporter should realize freely convertible currency. So therefore, benefit may not be available for export of goods to Nepal and Bhutan if you realize in INR. That's what I feel. So.
So, but it will definitely be subject to litigation.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
With this, we conclude our session. Now we are open for question answer.
Thank Yeah, thanks, Ratan. I think some of the people have already pasted on the chat board. So if you can just take those questions and
Sure.
maybe we can invite other members also to post there or unmute themselves and speak out their questions.
Yeah, so I'm taking from chat box. Is RoadTech scheme available for LUT shipments? So yes, it will be available. Whether these exports are under LUT or on payment of GST, it will not matter. Only thing is the goods what you are going to export should fall under Appendix 4R. What is the expected RoadTech percentage for AA and EOU if at all they decide to consider? This is also not known because as Nupur mentioned that they have not sought any data from these sectors. So even if later point in time if they notify the date, probably they may ask data or they may collect from particular industry. If you are opting under these schemes, what is the taxes, duties, etc. you are incurring, and then accordingly they may decide the date. Or they may take like ad hoc formula, like in DTA you are DTA exporter for a particular industry you are getting 0.8%, and if you are working and operating under AA, EOU, etc., then maybe 60%, 70%, depending upon some formula or something based on their internal intelligence, they may decide the rate. There will be need of BRC from bank for claiming RoadTech, not at the time of export, because at the time of export they will not ask for this information, but certainly within that time specified by FEMA, like 9 months or extended period, certainly you need to show the proof BRC. If you do not show, then like in case of drawback, you are getting that recovery letters from the government, you may get even for RoadTech also. Do
So
we
there is
yeah.
one question raised, that is there any timeline prescribed by the government for crediting the ledger. Again, there is no clarity on this aspect. But because the notification has come very recently, we expect that the government would be crediting the ledger soon enough. Also, somebody has posted a question that if the scripts can be printed and then sold. In my view, I don't think that can be done. You will have to necessarily transfer the scripts online through the electronic ledger only. And on that basis, only the transferee will be able to utilize the scripts.
One question is, can we claim both duty drawback and RoDTEP? Yes, there is no bar as such in the scheme. Duty drawback as well as RoDTEP, both benefit would be available. One question is, do we get any queries before sanction of RoDTEP benefit from customs like duty drawback queries? So duty drawback also for section 75 all industry drawback, I don't foresee anything that you get any queries or all. But suppose if there is a query by the system with respect to your classification or valuation, etc., upfront raised by the department before assessing the shipping bill, then those queries would certainly be part of this RoDTEP also. But once the shipping bill is assessed, then you will not be getting any query till the time this script is issued, generated, and then subsequently if department comes to know any dispute with respect to your valuation or classification or any other issues.
So another question is whether EHTP is eligible for RoDTEP. This we've already covered. We've also covered whether realization in INR will be eligible for RoDTEP scheme. There's another question, if the amount will be credited in our account automatically. Yes, subject to fulfillment of all other conditions. The intention of the government is that the amount will be credited automatically in the ledger account.
Right. With respect to the date and then rate, etc., like one question is, till when CBIC ISGATE will issue clarity on RoDTEP? So that's something association can find out from board or from someone, because they've not given that clarity, because like for this RoDTEP notification also that took more than 7.5 months. So that clarity something is required. I think, sir, we have covered almost all these queries. If any specific queries there, you can unmute the participants and then we can complete them.
Yes, please. If there's any further queries that the members may like to raise, please unmute yourself and you can raise that now before we conclude the session.
Hello, sir. My name is Pramod Pant. Thanks for arranging this very interesting and knowledgeable session on RoDTEP. Are you getting me, sir?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
go on.
Yeah. Yes, sir. First of all, thanks to all for arranging this session. And my question is, shall the RoDTEP claim be reimbursed to exporter account before receipt of payment or receipt of BRC, or shall it be reimbursed after export proceeds done?
So as sir, we have covered that you need not show the BRC at the time of filing shipping bill or at the time of getting the benefit. You would be given the benefit the moment the shipping bill is assessed and the scroll is generated. They will not wait for realization to be there, but within 9 months or within the time limit specified by FEMA, you must realize that export proceeds.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another question is coming for INR export, especially if you are
Yes, sir.
exporting to Nepal, Bhutan, so how it is covered?
As the scheme stands today, it is unlikely that you will get that benefit unless they amend that FEMA or the specific amendment in the policy they bring, saying that benefit of RoDTEP would be given to for export to Nepal, Bhutan, or any other country where you realize in INR. But that
Okay,
may not happen.
If in between government say that it will be applicable for Nepal and Bhutan, So
Hmm.
how is there any procedure to amend the shipping bill? Suppose someone has not been make the declaration on shipping bill during filing of shipping bill. So is there any procedure if such?
See, yes. Amendment of shipping bill is possible under section 149 of
Okay, sir.
Customs Act that provides for amendment of bill of entry or shipping bill, and there is no time limit specified as such. So therefore, you can get the clarity, and then the moment they issue the clarification, then you can go for amendment of the shipping bill. That there will not be any problem.
Thank you, sir. Another thing is there any
So just one
clarity?
point I want to add here. When
Yeah.
you're looking at amendment of the shipping bills, you may face a challenge that what was the document in existence at the time of import which showed that you had intent to claim the RODTEP benefit.
That question, ma'am, I have asked especially in case of Nepal and Bhutan issue. If
Sir, I'm
government
talking
is
about
going to
Nepal and
do
Bhutan only, but the procedure requirements under 149 will have to be, the conditions will have to be fulfilled for
Okay.
you to claim the amendment. Having said that, we have also highlighted before that the condition for declaring your intent comes from the circular only, not from the notification. So these are points of litigation which may be considered subject to the benefits being allowed to Nepal, Bhutan, and specific to your situations. You may keep these points in mind, and as and when the situation arises, we can discuss it further.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, please? I guess, Nupur did our job very well. And she plays our advocate
Hello?
to Ratan. And
Hello?
yeah, please.
Hello?
Yeah, Ramesh.
Yes, sir, my point is that we are our rate fix is 1/3 of the taxes and duties. How we can get it revised?
It's a very good question. But as we highlighted that no selling rates of the for the particular product, it would be determined by the government. And if suppose if like you made the representation when they sought for data, and then your rate suppose it was maybe 7%, 8%, and then you are getting 2%, 3%, then probably the first thing you must do is that you get under RTI that what was the basis for them to fix this rate, and then probably we can take a call whether we need to make representation or whether we need to challenge this before court. Challenging before court would be the last resort because court may not interfere in that, but filing of representation would help in getting the rates revised, though we are not sure that they will, but at least this will help certainly in getting the rates revised.
It means first we have to get the basis of fixation in the RTI.
Correct. Because you must have given data. Then those data were analyzed by RoadTap committee, and basis that only they have concluded that this rate should be given to this particular sector or particular
Okay.
product. So
Right,
that
sir.
will provide an RT.
ठीक है, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So any other question? Very quick. I think we are just in time. So before we call it, if somebody wants to take the opportunity of, raising their questions answered. So I think let's call off the session for today. Thanks indeed for your support. I must express my gratitude to Lakshmi Kumaran and Shrijan attorneys, and in particular our subject experts for today, Mr. Ratan Jain and Nupur Maheshwari. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
presenting all the important points very crisply and very well explained, and everything I'm sure met out the expectations of our member exporters today. And our sincere compliments and gratitude to Ratanji and Nupurji for conducting the today's session on this very important topic concerning particularly our electronics hardware members, and answering to the queries of attendees very professionally. So we will be putting for the benefit of our other members who couldn't join, other members, they can on our YouTube channel, and so that the other members can take advantage of very well explained ROTEP schemes. And if need be, we'll be getting back again to you for depending on the interest, for conducting another session, knowledge session with our members on ROTEP or any other points topic that may emerge. So that's all for today. Thank you so much once again for sparing your time and being with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so
Thank you
much,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.